How movies changed the 20th century in a way their inventors could never have imagined. The invention of the motion picture camera and projector brought movies to the masses. The first leading figures to emerge from the fledgling motion picture companies were the producers and directors who made the movies. But the audiences made the actors in front of the camera the first real celebrities of the film era. This new form of celebrity would ultimately change society more than the films themselves. The first commercial screening of a movie took place on December 28, 1895, at the Grand Café in Paris. Auguste and Louis Lumière projected a series of short scenes from everyday French life and charged admission for the first time. The first narrative film, a movie that told a fictitious story, was The Great Train Robbery, which was exhibited in 1903. The movie was approximately 10 minutes long, consisted of 14 scenes, and was a huge success for the production company and exhibitors. With the success of The Great Train Robbery, film production companies began producing scores of narrative movies. But who were the actors in front of the camera? That's what audiences wanted to know. The bottom line for any businesses, including the motion picture business, is to maximize profits. At first, the producers wanted to keep their acting troupe uncredited and unknown for the simple reason of saving money on a production. If the actors were unknown, they couldn't ask for more money. But audiences recognized some actors from film to film. Florence Lawrence was known as the Biograph Girl because she appeared in films produced by the Biograph Studios. The same was true for Mary Pickford. She was also working for Biograph, sometimes acting in a different film every week. As her popularity grew, exhibitors increased ticket sales by advertising that their new film featured the girl with the golden curls. By 1910, both Florence Lawrence and Mary Pickford were working under their own names. This wasn't out of the generosity of their producers, but because the studios realized that a name actor would help ticket sales. The newfound celebrity of the first movie stars was a commodity that could be used to promote their films and their studios. Public relations departments in all the production companies began working on how to best promote their new stars. They created whole new public personas for the actors that would appeal to the moviegoers. In today's terms, the studios were creating a brand. In fact, they were creating multiple brands. The studios branded themselves as producing the finest pictures using the best talent. Movie stars had their own brands made up of manufactured biographies, staged promotional events, and contrived gossip to keep the movie star in the public eye. None of it had to be real. It just had to sell more tickets. Movie studios were actually in two businesses. Their first was to produce the movies, their second was to manufacture and manage fame. How well they marketed the intangible fame of their contract actors had a direct impact on their box office returns. Before the movies, celebrities were people who had attained noteworthy accomplishments in the real world. Their fame came from leading expeditions into uncharted regions of the earth, making scientific discoveries, or setting or breaking achievement records. Movie stars became celebrities for being characters who didn't exist. The birth of this new concept of celebrity happened because of a combination of elements that aligned perfectly with the beginning of the film industry. The print media was always hungry for content, and the new film industry kept them well fed. As Kurt Anderson wrote in Fantasyland, How America Went Haywire, a 500-year history, the print media opened the floodgates of modern celebrity culture. Just a couple of decades earlier, before radio and the movies, national fame was rare. Before movies and radio, most Americans had surely never heard the voice of more than a single major celebrity in their lifetimes. In the 1910s and 20s and 30s, the number of celebrities and their visibility increased by orders of magnitude. No more than 1 million Americans saw the biggest theatrical superstar of the 1800s, Edwin Booth, perform his signature role, Hamlet, over the course of his entire career, whereas 20 million would see Charlie Chaplin in just one movie. In 1927, movies changed forever with the addition of sound in The Jazz Singer.
Wait a minute, you ain't heard nothing yet. Toot-toot-toot-tee, goodbye. Toot-toot-toot-tee, don't cry.
This new technology spelled the beginning of the end for silent films. The audiences wanted more talkies, and the studios and theaters gave them what they wanted. Some actors could not make the transition to talkies.
Noblest lady of the court, second only to the queen. Yet I am the saddest is mortal than frame.
but the film factory in Hollywood easily replaced them with a new pantheon of stars. The movie studios continued to be very profitable for almost another 20 years until two calamitous events changed everything. Again. The major studios in Hollywood, Universal, Paramount, Warner Brothers, RKO, and Columbia, held a near monopoly on the movie business in the United States. Each studio had exclusive contracts with their most valuable talent. The studios also owned the theaters where their movies were shown, and consulted with each other about how their films would be played in independent movie houses. But in 1948, the Supreme Court effectively dismantled these Hollywood studio monopolies. The justices also asked a lower court to decide whether to make the studios sell their theaters. Even as the studios attempted to band together and fight that issue, first RKO sold their theaters, and then Paramount followed suit. Hollywood's monopolistic reign was over. Along with the Supreme Court decision came another fatal blow to the movie industry. Television. With the monopoly broken, the studios had to raise funds to make up the loss of their income from their theaters. To save money, one studio after another released their actors from their expensive contracts, and then they sold off one of their major assets that was no longer producing income. The studios sold their film libraries. The television networks, their affiliates, and independent stations across the country were in dire need of programming. Getting access to Hollywood's film vault saved them from having to produce their own content. It was less expensive to show an old movie than it was to create the programs that would fill 2 hours of TV time. The end result was the movie studios helped fuel the success of the new television industry with their own product, movies. Millions of former moviegoers were staying home instead of making their weekly visit to their neighborhood movie theater. From 1948 to 1958, movie attendance fell by almost half. The studios had to woo moviegoers back. They had to give their audience something they couldn't get at home from their small, flickering TV screens. But what would that be? Big screen spectacle. For the first time, movie stars had to take a backseat to technology in movies produced in Cinerama. 3D, CinemaScope, Superscope, VistaVision, Todd AO, RegalScope, and Panavision. And then came 70mm film camera systems and projectors. Movies were bigger, and cameras were heavier than ever. But did these new processes bring the movie audiences back to the golden age of Hollywood levels? No. The studios still made good financial returns, but television was here to stay. But could these technical innovations continue to deliver the celebrity as it had done before? Yes. However, the studios would have to share their movie stars/celebrities with the 3 television networks. And the networks themselves were manufacturing their own homegrown crop of celebrities. The power of celebrity. At first, celebrities made money for their movie studios. People didn't go see a movie because of the producer, director, or the scriptwriter. They went to see their favorite movie stars. The stars sold the picture. But there was still more money to be mined from celebrity through endorsements. This was a goldmine for advertisers and their products. What else could they sell? Soap, beer, Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, and Royal Crown Cola, makeup, cigarettes, and more cigarettes, and just about anything and everything else. Well-known movie stars, television stars, and radio stars cashed in their fame for advertising endorsement dollars. But what else could a celebrity sell? Politics. By 1951, Ronald Reagan's motion picture career had faltered. He was getting progressively weaker leading roles, and he ultimately decided to step down from the movie star level to hosting as well as performing in some episodes of General Electric Theater. Reagan's contract with General Electric required him to spend 10 weeks a year touring GE plants, giving as many as 14 speeches a day. Reagan was introduced to groups of people who would later end up supporting him when he eventually ran for office. Through his job at General Electric, Reagan became a spokesman for political conservatism. The speech he gave over and over again on his GE tours became the polished and refined patriotic speech, A Time for Choosing, that he gave for conservative presidential hopeful Barry Goldwater in 1964.
The following pre-recorded political program is sponsored by TV for Goldwater Miller on behalf of Barry Goldwater, Republican candidate for President of the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, we take pride in presenting a thoughtful address by Ronald Reagan. Mr. Reagan.
This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves. You and I are told increasingly we have to choose between a left or right. Well, I'd like to suggest there is no such thing as a left or right. There's only an up or down. Man's old age dream, the ultimate in individual freedom consistent with law and order, or down to the ant-heap of totalitarianism. And regardless of their sincerity, their humanitarian motives, those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course.
The speech didn't help Goldwater in his election bid against Lyndon Johnson, but it gave Reagan national political recognition. He was ready to take the next step in his celebrity in 1965, when instead of selling a political point of view, he sold the conservative ideology with himself as the leading man. The voters of California agreed, and he became governor of state in 1967, and was re-elected in 1970. The movie star turned television star turned governor of the most powerful state in the United States. Reagan became arguably the most viable Republican candidate for the presidency. Though he lost to Gerald Ford during the 1976 Republican primaries, he secured the nomination in 1980. Reagan won in the general election against the Democrat and incumbent President Jimmy Carter. He won re-election in 1984, and during his 2 terms, completely changed the political landscape of the United States. Ronald Reagan was not a populist. He represented corporate America, and his job as the corporate spokesman was to sell that worldview to the voters. The Ronald Reagan story was the first demonstration of the real power of celebrity. The next chapter of the story is considerably darker. Celebrity in the 21st century and beyond. There have been many celebrities who have turned themselves into successful politicians since Reagan, but we have never seen a celebrity run for political office on the strength of his not being a politician, until Donald Trump. He ran as an incredibly successful businessman who could, quote, make America great again. In 2003, Donald Trump began co-producing as well as hosting a television game show called The Apprentice, which ran for 15 seasons. His screen persona was that of a wealthy tycoon who operated many successful businesses. The truth is Trump's business track record is not so laudable. 13 of his businesses went out of business, and he has been in and out of bankruptcy court multiple times. He couldn't even make a profit running casinos. But for 15 seasons, Americans watched Donald Trump host a television game show. He wasn't a real billionaire. He just played one on TV. He had name recognition and was admired for his perceived success. The major over-the-air and cable news networks treated the Trump campaign differently from other political campaigns. They broadcast Trump events because they were entertaining instead of informative. A celebrity was running for the highest office in the land. This was good TV. Les Moonves, chairman of CBS, said, "It may not be good for America, but it's damn good for CBS." In 2016, Trump lost the popular vote by almost 3 million votes, but won the Electoral College votes, 304 to 227, which propelled him into office. For good or ill, a celebrity is once again the leader of the most powerful nation on earth. Before cable television, there were 3 television networks in the United States. Now, with cable, there are hundreds of networks and thousands of programs. Add whatever we are streaming on the internet and the number of viewing options is incomprehensible. Is this where our next batch of celebrity contestants are coming from? Today, the fragmentation of what we watch is complete. No one can guess what the other person had watched. That common touchstone does not exist anymore. The concept of celebrity has morphed once again. There are people who are famous for no apparent reason, except they were featured on a reality TV show or on a well-liked YouTube video. Is that fame in the 21st century? Famous for being famous? Regardless, they are all trying to cash in on their celebrity whenever and wherever they can. Because whether in 1903 or 2018, the goal is still about trading celebrity for money. We can record our lives with our phones or our glasses. We can be the producers, directors, writers, and star of our own life movies that we upload to the net. As Stephen King once said, "Our lives really are like movies. The main cast consists of your family and friends. The supporting cast is made up of neighbors, co-workers, teachers, and daily acquaintances. There are also bit players, and there are thousands of extras. But what will our world be like when everyone has the leading role, but has no audience? Will that be the beginning of the end of the celebrity?
Portable television studio.